Well, I finally saw the new Jungle Book movie today, and I really liked it. When I did my first thoughts video, I was at that point wondering whether it would turn out to be a lot like the Disney cartoon version, or be made to be closer to the original Rudyard Kipling book. And it's very much a combination of the two. It starts out with a focus on the laws of the jungle and the laws of the wolf pack, which are taken right out of the book. I like that the laws are introduced with a water truce in the beginning of the movie. That works very well. And I really like that the laws of the jungle and the laws of the pack play a major role in the story and in the climax of the story. The climax is amazing. It's a lot more intense than the one in the Disney cartoon, while in some ways being similar. Shere Khan was cool in the cartoon, of course, but in this film he is just terrifying. The parts where he jumps out and attacks made me jump every time. Easily just as scary as the lions from The Ghost in the Darkness. Shere Khan, he's an interesting contrast in the threat that he poses to the threat posed by Ka and by King Louis. Now, as I said before, King Louis is a character that was made up for the original 1957, I think, Disney cartoon. He's not in the original book at all. The monkeys are. Now, whereas Shere Khan will approach a character very quietly, and you almost believe that if you're careful, you can talk him down. That is, until he springs into action in the blink of an eye and slashes you to pieces before you can respond. Ka is threatening to look at, but very subtle. There's no quick action, there's just deception. And Louis can probably pound you with those giant fists of his if he wants to, but finds opportunities to use Mowgli instead to get what he wants. He's very different from the cartoon version in this film, where the orangutan Louis had the same motivation as the Gigantopithecus Louis does. But the cartoon Louis was very much a clown, as were all the monkeys in that version. Here, the monkeys are loud and quite dangerous in their own way, even though they can't kill you like a big cat or python can, much like monkeys in real life. Monkeys are not that sweet in real life. They can be, what's the word? Mischievous and intense, and not mischievous in a goofy way. Anyway, Baloo and Bagheera are great in this. I've always loved Bagheera. He's probably my favorite character out of all the characters from the Jungle Book. And he's pretty consistent in all of the adaptations of the story, as is Baloo. At least the ones I've seen. I've seen several. Sometimes Bagheera is made into a female character. He's male in the book. I think the only female characters in the original story are Raksha, who is the mother wolf who adopts Mowgli, and Mesua. I think that's her name, who is Mowgli's human adoptive mother after he returns to the man village in the book. Akela is actually not Mowgli's adoptive wolf father. He's just the leader of the pack. Mowgli's wolf father was named Rama in the book. So yeah, it was Raksha and Mesua who were the only female characters from the original book. This is the first time Ka has been made female. And much like when Bagheera is made female, they made Bagheera female in at least the Mowgli story one. Can't remember specifically what other versions. It doesn't change the story at all. I have a big black American short-haired cat named Blackberry who looks exactly like a mini Bagheera. He's an awesome, sweet cat. Bagheera is a little too large in this movie. He's a black leopard. There actually is no species of big cat just called a panther. Panther will either refer to a black leopard, a black jaguar, or a cougar. Cougars are sometimes called panthers, particularly in Florida. Cougars have like the most different names of any. Well, cougar's not a big cat. Cougar's related to more smaller cats, but it has a ton of names. One of them happens to be panther. That's not the point. The point is, Bagheera is just a little too big in this movie. He should maybe be a third smaller than his portrayed size is. I think that's true of Baloo as well. And Ka, of course, is bigger than any living snake ever gets. Maybe even bigger than Titanoboa got in real life. Although for him and Shere Khan, the larger scale works to heighten the threat they pose and just how badass they are, so I'm good with that. I think they chose almost the perfect voice casting for this movie. I was a little worried about all of the animals being CG, but it works. I like that the jungle is portrayed as often shifting between very bright and very dark in the environment it creates. Some of the dark is when it is night, some of it's when it's very thick jungle or dark environments, but I get that I like that you get that shift between light and dark. It matches the tone of the movie, and when it's dark, really amplifies the threatening atmosphere. The boy, Neil Sethi, is very good, especially when he has to act scared or under pressure. He pulls that off real well. It's when we get to the more lighthearted parts, like the parts with Baloo, I'm not quite sure he hits the Mowgli personality that comes to mind for me, but that could very well just be my interpretation. I think most of the time he's got it. He's got Mowgli. Now, at some point, I want to go back to some of the other adaptations and give them another look. I've seen several of them, but it's been a while. And I also want to do a talk on the original book itself, without any comparisons to the films or cartoon series. There's at least... there's a couple of short cartoons, I believe, and there's at least one whole cartoon series called Shonen Mowgli. I loved this. This is probably the most intense version of the Jungle Book that exists, so no question, check it out. It's an amazing adventure.